A few days ago, we looked at an insurance bill Mark Tedford carried in the Oklahoma house at State Farm's request. That story was easy to understand. State Farm wanted Oklahoma law changed in a way that benefited property insurers. When fellow Republican Representative Emily Guys asked who requested the legislation, Tedford answered plainly, "This is a State Farm request bill." The House rejected it 72-18. CompSource is more complicated. But underneath the corporate terminology, the question is remarkably similar. Another insurance company wanted Oklahoma law changed. Tedford carried the legislation. The company received the new flexibility it wanted. The harder question is what clear benefit existing policyholders and Oklahoma stood to receive in return. This time there is another wrinkle. Tedford's relationship with CompSource did not begin with House Bill 3090. Public Tulsa County records from 2023 already show Tedford Insurance's Jenks office acting as producer on insurance arrangements that included CompSource Mutual. A 2025 Tulsa County proposal from Tedford Insurance went much further, listing CompSource Mutual as the primary workers' compensation quote at about $2.59 million. So when Tedford authored legislation CompSource wanted in 2024, he was not dealing with an unfamiliar insurance company. His agency already had an established commercial relationship with it. CompSource Mutual is not an ordinary corporation owned by outside shareholders. It is a mutual insurance company. Its policyholders are its members. And CompSource has accumulated roughly $1 billion in surplus, financial strength built while serving Oklahoma employers buying workers' compensation insurance. For a policyholder, that money matters. It helps support claims, protects the company against unexpectedly bad losses, and contributes to the financial strength behind the policy. CompSource wants to do more with that strength. The company says Oklahoma businesses and insurance agents wanted to offer more kinds of commercial insurance and provide coverage in more states. Its proposed restructuring would give CompSource greater flexibility to expand, invest, and develop additional products. That may be a perfectly reasonable business strategy. But put yourself in the position of a longtime policyholder. We helped build the company that accumulated this financial strength. If CompSource uses that strength to become a much larger insurance company, what do we gain if the expansion succeeds? And what happens to us if it doesn't? Bob Burke has been a CompSource policyholder for 46 years. He is also an attorney and one of the people challenging the proposed restructuring. Burke does not oppose CompSource expanding into other insurance lines or additional states. His objection is what could happen to the ownership interests of today's policyholders. He told the Journal Record that the restructuring dilutes, or cuts, his interest in half. CompSource strongly disagrees with that characterization. It says policyholders would retain 100% of the membership interests in the new mutual holding company, and that their rights, protections, and voting privileges would remain intact. The Oklahoma Insurance Department also concluded that the plan is fair and equitable and does not substantially reduce policyholder security. But Burke's question gets us past the corporate jargon. If today's policyholders helped build a company with roughly $1 billion in financial strength, what do they gain if that strength is used to make CompSource a much larger insurance company? And what happens if the expansion doesn't work? In 2024, Tedford authored House Bill 3090, creating a new Oklahoma process allowing a mutual insurer to reorganize into a stock insurance company beneath a mutual holding company. The legislation hardly raised an eyebrow. It passed the House 88-0, the Senate 38-0, and Governor Kevin Stitt signed it in April 2024. But Republican Representative T.J. Marty wanted to know something more basic. Who wanted the bill? On February 6, 2024, Marty privately texted Insurance Commissioner Glenn Mulready and asked whether House Bill 3090 was a requested bill or simply one company trying to change from a mutual to a stock structure. Mulready checked. His response was remarkably clear. "I understand it's a request from CompSource." He added that the change would allow CompSource to raise money and expand into other lines of business. House Bill 3090 was written broadly enough that other qualifying mutual insurers could use it. But there is little reason to pretend we do not know which company was pushing for the change. It was CompSource. 2 years later, CompSource became the first Oklahoma insurer to seek the restructuring House Bill 3090 made possible. In March, Insurance Commissioner Mulready approved the plan, subject to approval by at least 2/3 of eligible policyholders who vote. Forget the corporate organization chart for a moment. CompSource itself says what it wants. The company wants to offer more kinds of insurance and operate in more states. It says customers and independent insurance agents have been asking for those options and that the new structure would give CompSource greater flexibility to grow, invest strategically, and develop new products. That is an easy-to-understand business benefit for CompSource. The benefit for an existing policyholder is less concrete. CompSource says policyholders will benefit from a stronger, more competitive company with broader products and geographic reach. But the restructuring itself does not produce an immediate cash payment, promised dividend, or promised reduction in premiums for today's policyholders. So the difference is worth noting. CompSource knows what it wants from House Bill 3090, greater freedom to grow. The return to today's policyholders depends largely on whether that growth ultimately benefits them. Growth can work. A more diversified CompSource could become a stronger company, offer Oklahoma businesses more choices, and compete for customers across a broader market. Growth can also go badly. New insurance lines can lose money. Expansion into other states can disappoint. Investments and acquisitions can fail. CompSource today is financially strong. AM Best reaffirmed its excellent financial strength rating with a stable outlook in December 2025 and described its risk-adjusted capitalization as being in the strongest category. There is no evidence that rating is currently endangered. But if future expansion eventually produced substantial losses, the question for existing policyholders would be obvious. Could those losses weaken the same balance sheet whose strength made the expansion possible in the first place? Successful expansion could make CompSource stronger. Unsuccessful expansion could do the opposite. Which brings the policyholders' question back into focus. Who gets the upside if the strategy works, and who bears the consequences if it doesn't? Even the independent expert hired by the Oklahoma Insurance Department identified a potential problem with the new structure. The expert warned that leaders serving both the stock insurer and the mutual holding company could face conflicts and potentially favor the stock company over the policyholder-owned mutual parent. The expert nevertheless recommended approval with additional safeguards. Mulready imposed them. For 3 years, CompSource must maintain risk-based capital at least 300% of the authorized control level, and dividends from the converted insurer require insurance department approval. Stock distributions or sales require approval and an independent valuation for 5 years, and the holding companies must file an investment policy before beginning investment activity. Those protections support Mulready's argument that the restructuring can be done safely. They also tell us that this is about more than moving boxes around on a corporate chart. There is real money and real financial risk involved. This is where House Bill 3090 becomes more than an argument over CompSource corporate policy. Tedford Insurance is an independent agency selling workers' compensation and a long list of other commercial products. Its own website identifies CompSource Mutual among the carriers with which the agency works. And the relationship predates House Bill 3090. Public Tulsa County insurance records from 2023 identify Tedford Insurance's Jenks office as producer on coverage involving CompSource Mutual. Then, in 2025, Tedford Insurance submitted a proposal to Tulsa County in which CompSource Mutual was its primary workers' compensation quote at $2,590,293. Those records do not tell us how much Tedford Insurance earned from CompSource policies. They do not show Mark Tedford personally receiving money because House Bill 3090 passed. And they do not establish that he introduced the legislation to benefit his agency. There is no basis to make those accusations. But the commercial relationship is real, documented, and older than the law Tedford carried for CompSource. The potential business opportunity is not difficult to understand. CompSource says one purpose of the restructuring is to give independent insurance agents more products to offer and coverage in more states. Big Eye Oklahoma President and CEO Denise Johnson specifically cited those advantages in supporting CompSource's plan. An agency already doing business with CompSource could therefore potentially gain more CompSource products to sell, more opportunities to serve customers operating across state lines, and more opportunities to place business with the company. Tedford Insurance is already one of those agencies. That does not prove a conflict. It does not prove Tedford wrote House Bill 3090 for personal gain. It creates a question worth answering. Could CompSource expansion create additional products, commissions, or other commercial opportunities for Tedford Insurance? And if so, what did Tedford disclose when he carried the law that made that expansion possible? Strip away the insurance terminology and the pattern is not difficult to see. State Farm wanted Oklahoma law changed. Tedford carried the legislation. When another Republican asked who wanted it, Tedford acknowledged that State Farm had requested the bill. The House rejected it 72-18. CompSource wanted a different change in Oklahoma law. Tedford carried that legislation too. This time it passed 88-0 in the House and 38-0 in the Senate. CompSource then became the first company seeking to use the law, and policyholders are fighting the proposed restructuring. The Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner's own order recognizes that future membership growth creates a possible dilution risk, although he concluded that policyholders receive substantially similar rights in the new mutual holding company and that the plan meets Oklahoma law. CompSource later asked the Oklahoma Supreme Court to assume original jurisdiction in the dispute. On June 23, 2026, the court declined. That order did not rule that the restructuring was legal or illegal and did not decide the policyholders' underlying claims. And this time there is an additional fact. Tedford's private insurance agency already had a commercial relationship with the insurance company seeking the change. That leads to questions Tedford should be able to answer. Did CompSource ask him directly to introduce House Bill 3090? Did he tell his fellow legislators CompSource was behind it? Did he disclose his agency's existing CompSource relationship? Does Tedford Insurance receive commissions from CompSource policies? And if CompSource expands into additional products and additional states, would that create additional products, commissions, or other commercial opportunities for Tedford Insurance? There may be entirely ordinary answers. Tedford should provide them. COSU reported that Tedford's office did not respond to its questions about House Bill 3090 for its July 30th report. And if District 1 voters are not going to get a congressional debate, Tedford does not need a debate stage to answer. He has social media. He has a campaign website. The questions are waiting. There is one more question District 1 voters should ask before Election Day. What happens to Mark Tedford's financial interest in Tedford Insurance if he becomes a member of Congress? Members of Congress are not automatically required to place their business interests into blind trusts. Qualified blind trusts are available, but federal disclosure rules contemplate members continuing to own reportable financial assets and business interests. There are restrictions on what a House member may personally do for such a business. House ethics rules prohibit members from accepting compensation for personally providing professional services involving a fiduciary relationship, including selling insurance, and prohibit compensated service as an officer or board member of a corporation or family business. Financial interests and income also remain subject to federal disclosure requirements. So Tedford should tell voters his plan. Will he retain his ownership interest in Tedford Insurance? Will he use a qualified blind trust or some other independently managed arrangement? Who will control the agency's relationships with insurance companies whose interests may come before Congress? And when federal legislation affects companies doing business with Tedford Insurance, what disclosure or recusal standard will he follow? Those questions are not accusations of illegality. They arise because Tedford himself has made his insurance business experience part of his case for promotion to Congress. State Farm showed voters what happened when one insurance company asked Tedford to carry legislation. CompSource shows that it was not the only time. This time, his own insurance agency already had an established commercial relationship with the company, and the expansion enabled by Tedford's law could potentially make CompSource a more valuable business partner to agencies like his. None of that proves illegality. It does make transparency essential. CompSource can explain what it expects to gain from House Bill 3090. Policyholders can explain what they believe they could lose. Now Mark Tedford should explain what clear benefit Oklahoma policyholders and the state stood to receive, and whether his own insurance business had anything to gain as well. Before District 1 sends him to Washington, Voters deserve to know where Representative Tedford ends and Tedford Insurance begins. Follow the money at wlangdon.substack.com.